Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Atiya Siddiqui and I'm working at ComSat's Institute of Information Technology as assistant professor. I've been working with ComSats for about 10 years now, and I teach business communication to MBA and BBA level. Giving you the little introduction of business communication, what it is all about. It is how we talk to people in a social setup and convince them to what we are saying, to buying a product or changing their set of product into another one. So it becomes a business that we are promoting, some kind of a business, and we are talking to people and convincing them to buy our product in a certain manner. So the course title is Business Communication, HUM 400, and the course contents are Introduction to Business Communication, where we are going to discuss certain definitions of business communication, how things go about in the market and in different scenarios. Then we come to verbal and non-verbal communication. Of course, non-verbal communication is also very important. It curtails to your body language, your eye contact, and of course your written documents also, because they are not verbal. You're not speaking, you're not talking to people. So written documents as well as your gestures and your postures will be covered in verbal and non-verbal communication. Then we will be coming to the barriers in communication. Obviously, when we are in a social setup, what happens is that there are different people interacting with us, there are different circumstances. Along with that, we do realize that there can be certain barriers which will hamper or restrict our communication with the other person. So all these things, keeping them in mind, listening skills would be there, because good listeners are always good communicators, and if you do not listen well, you will not be able to talk to the other person and come up with good questions. So it is very important. Then we will come to business writing. Your business writing is how you write certain documents and how you edit them. It is very important to realize that using appropriate words is very important in business communication, and appropriacy of words would come when once you have tried to master the language. You must improve your vocabulary. You must have 2 or 3 words for one word to be used, and with that you will be able to develop your mastery in the language. Then we have audience profile. The audience profile is what do our audience require from us. In the business world, we obviously discuss what is required from us, what are the things which are which the people want. Like for example, in the summer time, we usually get advertisements of cold drinks and ice creams, and in the winter time we see sweaters, we see bonanza, wearing sweaters, and these companies coming up with new kind of designs and all those things. Then we have coffee and tea and all these things. So every season will bring its own mood with the audience, and how you convince them into buying your product is of course another thing. Then we would be coming to good news and bad news letters. Good news and bad news letters would contain information, and they will tell you why a certain product is not being offered to you. What are the reasons for it? So good news letter would be an easy task to do, because you're giving out a good news and that should not be a problem. But bad news is a tricky thing. You have to have the audience confidence. You're not hurting them in any way by refusing something. Like, for example, it is possible that you're refusing credit, a bank is refusing credit to an individual. Now that individual is affected directly because he's not going to get the credit. How you convey that message is, and you maintain your goodwill with them, is your fine art, I would say. That you have told them that, look, this is the problem, here is where we are restricted, our policy does not permit us this, and this is how we we will be able to facilitate you in the future. No negative words, saying that we are refusing this thing. Use of words is very, very choosy, and one needs to be very careful about it. Then we have long and short reports. Now, long and short reports have different formats. We will be discussing them, and I would want you to do some research on your part as well. Go on to the websites, go on to different search engines, go on to Google, and try to find out what are different formats for different activities. So we will be able to have a variety of reports samples. Then we have job applications. You're going for a job and your CV is your name tag and of course your price tag as well. So you're going there, you're selling yourself, you're selling your capabilities, and how are you doing that? How effective is your job application, your CV or your resume? So that we will learn how to make a good resume that will reassure you a job. And then interviews, going for interviews, how we will go for the interviews, and what should be our dress like, and what should be our confidence level. All these things will be catered for in this course. And then we will be coming to effective presentations. Presentation is also very important because when you are talking to somebody, you need to look well as speak well. So speaking well would be your knowledge of your subject, the topic that you are discussing, and looking well would be how you portray yourself, how you conduct yourself, what is your body language, what are your eye contacts, what are your facial expressions. All these things will be covered here. We start with lecture number 1, Introduction to Business Communication. Here I have a definition from Elisa Gregory, and it says that any act by which one person gives to or receives from another person information about that person's needs, desires, perceptions, knowledge or affective states. Communication may be intentional or unintentional. It may involve conventional or unconventional signals, may take linguistic or non-linguistic forms, and may occur through spoken or other modes. Now, this is a very detailed sort of a definition, and let me explain it to you further. It says that it caters for the person's needs and desires. So here we come up with the audience analysis, that what the person needs are, as I earlier said, that in winter we want a different set of routine. In summertime we want a different set of pattern, and that is how, like for example, take heaters. We will never ever dream of switching on a heater in summer, but yes, heaters are very much welcome in winter time. So these things are looking for people who are attracted to your scenario which you are portraying, their perceptions and their knowledge as well. Now we do perceive that knowledge level of a person is very, very important. Why? Because you see, take an example of producing toys for small children. Now their knowledge level is limited. What are they attracted to? They're attracted to colorful things. So when these colorful things come in their way, then only they would be attracted to it, they would want to buy it, and they would convince, of course, their parents to buy them that particular toy. So their level of achieving a goal. And then let's come to mobile phones. There are people who want to buy latest model of mobile phones every year. I myself would keep a mobile phone for at least 3 years time, and then I would get tired of it and I would look for something else. So people who are interested in buying new products every time, every year, every 6 months even, they would go out and shop for mobile phones and all these things. So these companies are making their innovations, making new products every day. They're giving new colors to their mobile phones, all these things. And likewise, take example of cars. There are new models every year. Some people have the capacity to buy them each year, to change a car each year. Some people do not, and that depends on your own circumstances. So your needs, your desires, your perception and your knowledge are affected in this manner. Then communication could be intentional or unintentional also. Like for example, I would talk to a person for a certain time period and just try to know him or her. What are their likes and dislikes? I don't have any intentions to further my friendship with them. So it is unintentional. We are sitting together in a waiting for like in a for doctor's appointment. We are waiting and we have nothing to do. Okay, I will talk to this person. Maybe he or she comes up with a good idea, like we start talking about the economy, how to better the economy, or but all these conversation would be unintentional. But you see here, like I'm quoting this example of sitting at a doctor's place and just having small talk with the person, coming up with ideas about the state of the country, the economy, all these things. This conversation was unintentional, but now talking to you, I have made it intentional, because I'm conveying this to you. So I'm communicating an incident to you that started unintentionally and ended into an intentional communication with you, making you think, making you reflect on how the conditions of the country can be made better, how we can have a good living style, how we can coordinate and cooperate with people. All these things would be very, very important. It may involve conventional or unconventional signals. Like conventional signals would be yes, okay, yes, I understand. And unconventional would be okay, fine, no problem. So these are different signals that we have, and it may take linguistic or non-linguistic form. Like I may use language, or I may use only gestures. Be quiet, I don't want to talk. So all these things are linguistic and non-linguistic forms. I hope so far we are trying to get somewhere, and we will be able to communicate with each other in a very effective manner in the future lectures to come. Another small definition for you. A business can flourish when all the targets of the organization are achieved effectively. For efficiency in an organization, all the people within and outside of the organization must be able to convey their message properly. The exchange of ideas, understanding within and without the organization to achieve the business goals is known as business communication. Okay, so this is where we understand that all of us are involved one way or the other into making a business effective. Like for example, take an educational institution, which will be a very appropriate example for us. If the building is not there for a school or for a university with appropriate lectures halls, with appropriate sitting arrangement, with the administration looking after things, with the teachers delivering the lectures, with the students attending the lectures. So we are all together in a kind of a business environment. And take an example of any organization. It will not work without the efficiency of the executives, without the hierarchy which considers people's needs, their ideas, their understanding, and their commitment with the organization. Then we have the subordinates also, who are runners, who go and get some things for us, delivers files, take our notes somewhere and bring them back. All these things, we are all interconnected, and that is what communication is all about. A person will not be able to do much in isolation. If you're alone, it means that nobody is there to help you out with anything. Like for example, here, sitting here, if I am not assisted by the fantastic team that we have, by the environment that we build up for these lectures, things are not going to be possible. So it is not that you are single-handedly running a business or running anything. Even I would consider that even the family life cannot be run alone. You have your children, you have your parents, you have your brothers and sisters, and you have your wife and husband and all these things. So they make a complete whole, and one person absent from the duty or the job, you can say, will have an effect on the rest of the people. So we're all together, and within and without, we are contributing to the development of something or the other. Pitching potential clients. This is something very important in business communication scenario. What happens is that attracting people, like for example, you make a Ferrari for a certain set of people. They are the potential clients. Ferrari is not every common person's car to be purchased, right? Then we have Suzuki's, people can buy them, people can afford them. So you see, we're targeting different aspects, and here it is very important, of course, to consider their needs also. For example, we get mobile phones of about 1,099 or even 2,000 rupees, and we get mobile phones of 50,000, 70,000 as well. So that is pitching potential clients. Like, you're targeting certain people, you're targeting certain audience, and again, when you are talking to people, you try to come up with what their needs are. What do they want? I want a simple mobile phone. I don't want to have a 5 megapixel camera in it. I want a smaller one. And you see, my needs are limited. Somebody else's needs may be more. So the organization, the company is catering for all kinds of people. Nokia makes simple mobiles also. Nokia makes, expensive mobiles as well. So this is how they cater for their clientele. Then we have client meetings. Now, client meetings are again considering each other and trying to get the point of view of the client first. Like, for example, architects. In architecture, people have different designs, people have different layouts of the houses. It is the client's need they cater for. They have a session with the client. They want to know how many rooms they want. Do they want a sunroom with it? Do they want lawns? Do they want, attached bathrooms? What kind of kitchens do they want? They want American kitchen, or they want a conventional kitchen, or whatever. So you see, meeting with the clients is also very, very important, because this is how they talk, they consider each other, and they have certain kind of information to give and to receive. So in architecture, we will be considering people who are around us, and what would they want and what would they require. Then we have customer service. You see, business communication really depends on customer service. If you give out a product and you forget about it, and the client comes up with some kind of a problem in it, and you do not consider them, you do not cater for them, you are lost in the business market. So customer service is also very important and a big part of business communication. People come up with certain complaints about their gadgets, about their the products that they have, and you need to cater for their needs. You need to put things right for them. You need to satisfy them completely. Then we have face-to-face networking. Of course, it is important. You must have come across people who are salespersons for credit cards. They come into offices, they talk about their banks, what are the facilities they are provided, and whether you want this credit card or not, and they even give you choices that yes, okay, this much is your salary, this is the kind of a credit card that would be given to you. So all these things come up with face-to-face networking. It is very important. Then marketing your business. That is also something which is required in this day and age, because we're going very fast in our commitments and coordination with people around us. So it is important how we talk to them, how we market our business proposal, and how we convey to them that this is good for you. Because the client may know or may not know how things are going to work for him in the future. So here at this time and point, you can predict the future with them, that yes, this product is going to help you, it is going to be good for you, and we would appreciate that how you go about it and how you consider this product. We come to a very precise and concrete definition of business communication by Mary Munter. It encompasses the whole aspect of business communication, which is the process of sharing through which messages produce responses. So this definition, the process of sharing through which messages produce responses, has three major parts: sharing, messages, and responses. Now, in sharing, we do realize that we should have two or more than two people to share with us. Now, here I would like to make you consider the psychological aspects of a human being as well. You see, we are all humans. We have our own mindsets, we have our own thinking, we have our own emotions and feelings. You may think that I am talking to you in this manner which is appropriate. Another person might think that this is not a good way to speak. So it depends on people, how they perceive, what their perception is. So when you're sharing something with the other person, you must always consider that this kind of a sharing will depend on the psychological aspect of an individual. Like, for example, if a person gets up early in the morning and is fresh in the morning and comes to the office very fresh, you go to him and you give him the details of the day and something important that you want to share with him. Because in the morning, you know that this person is very much receptive and he will be able to give you a good idea, or he would be able to share his thoughts with you, and he will be able to consider things with you. So sharing at that point is appropriate. Okay, then we come to and the same person in the afternoon, if you share something with him, he's so tired, and after a day's work at 3 o'clock or at 4 o'clock, if you go and share something important with him, he may not receive it in the same manner as he would have done early in the morning. So it depends. We are in business communication, please remember that we are talking about individuals, and individuals are very, very precious commodity. They have their own minds, they think in a different manner, and we need to respect their emotions, their capabilities, and their knowledge. So that is what basically we learn in business communication. Another important word for communication is patience. You must develop patience with the people around you, and you will see how interesting the world is with you, because you have the patience to listen to them, and you are able to listen to them in a good manner. Then sharing at the appropriate time, at the appropriate place, at the appropriate level is very, very important. Then we come to the message. The message is something which is conveyed to the other person, and he acts and reacts in the certain manner that he is supposed to. Like, for example, I tell you that tomorrow we will have a class in room 105 at 11 o'clock. Now the message is complete. tomorrow we will have a class, and the timing is also given to you. Okay, so message should be complete in its own self to be considered in a proper manner. Then we come to another aspect of messages, which is written documents or spoken documents. Spoken words in a manner that they are used in a proper way and people convey their ideas, their messages all together. And how they convey it, how appropriately they use their words is their own point of view. Okay, so and written messages, again, the vocabulary being used, the grammatical syntax being used, the proper construction of sentences, adjectives, adverbs, verbs, nouns, all these things, keeping in mind formulating a proper sentence in the English language, which is of course our medium of instruction. So message has to be good, has to be appropriate, and should be very, very clear. Clarity would of course mean that you are using the appropriate words at the appropriate time. Then we have responses. Now this is your message's response. The other person is giving you the response. And what is happening? This person is basically doing what you have told him to do. Like the example I gave you, that I have asked you that we will have a class tomorrow at 11 o'clock in room 105. The next day, when I reach the room and I find my students there, they are sitting waiting for me, it's 11 o'clock, I would see that the message had the proper response. So all these things cater for all these three aspects: sharing, talking to other people, message, is it clear, does it say it all, everything is right there with you, and responses, how the response has come. So all these things make good communication. Of course, if you do not write in an organization, if you do not write that yes, the file must reach this office at this time, and you know the work should be completed by afternoon, or all this, message is not clear. For example, we have meeting times, like on 26th of February we will be having a meeting at 11 o'clock. The agenda of the meeting is this. So all these things do take time, do need to be completely covered, what kind of information we are giving, and then expecting the appropriate response. So I hope you understand the basic business communication concept. We talk about encoder, message, medium, the channel which is being used, decoder, and the feedback. The encoder is a person who thinks of a message in his mind, in his brain, and comes up with the appropriate sentences to be used. Okay, now for example, right now I'm explaining things to you, I'm encoding the concept of business communication to you, and what am I doing? I'm trying to put my thoughts into words to be conveyed to you. So this is the encoding process. Okay, what is the message? The message is a lecture on business communication. Okay, so we're talking about different aspects like definitions of business communication, what happens in the market scenario, what happens in the organizational scenario, how we communicate to people, what are the considerations that we need to keep in mind. All this is very important. Then we are using a kind of a medium. Right now the medium is my voice going towards you, and I am using appropriate words to make things clear to you. Then decoder. Now who is a decoder? At this point in time, you are the decoder. How? You are getting my message and you are understanding it in your own mind, in your own ideas. You're formulating your own aspects, your own conditioning to the concept of business communication. So you're decoding it with your own mind. For example, 20 students in a class, I am the only lecturer there, and I talk to them, and these 20 minds work in different manner. They decode it in a different way altogether. Somebody understands the concept of business communication. Somebody likes the first definition that I put up. Somebody likes the Mary Munter's definition. So their minds are working in a different manner. They are channelizing, they are decoding in their own free way. Somebody is, not even interested in the lecture, so they don't know what is going on. So they are decoding in their own way. Like, things do happen this way. So every individual, and you can't stop it. Of course you can't stop the brain, what is going on in the minds of an individual. So they're talking to themselves, they're thinking of something else. Somebody wants to, take a nap, somebody wants to have tea. So they decode, and then continuously they are listening to what I am talking about. Some things are going into their mind and some things are just flying off. So they are decoding their own way. And then feedback. Let me give you a small example of a feedback, a very generalized one. I have taken the test of individuals, and that would be when you give me the answers to the questions that I have put up. Like, for example, I give you a question that define business communication in your own words. Now that is the feedback which is coming to me. How my lecture has gone, what you have understood in it, what you have not understood, how much capacity you have to retain the knowledge. All these things, the written document, the answer to my question would be my feedback of my lecture. So I hope you understand this small concept, that encoding, I am giving a message to you in different words. I'm using certain medium. Mediums can be different. Like, for example, medium can be my voice. Medium can be a telephonic conversation. Medium could be email. Medium could be a fax or a letter. All these things come into the concept of medium. And then the decoder, the person who receives the message in words or in written form or in email form or as a telephonic conversation. Then he decodes it. Whatever he understands, he does whatever the capacity he has to do the job. That is where the feedback comes. I give you an assignment, you come up with a good answer to my question. That is the feedback. And in organizational scenario, you introduce a new product, the clients buy it, they like it, They give you their feedback in emails, through emails, or they write letters, or production of that product needs to go quick, and you have to produce a lot of things at that time. So that is your feedback, that yes, the certain particular product has done well and it is acceptable in the market, and people are liking it. So that is why we need to produce more. That is the feedback. Now I hope you understand the concept of encoding, messaging, medium, use of medium, decoding, and feedback, giving the response, and how things have gone well. Here we must also consider the barriers in communication. Now barriers are things which cannot be helped. They are there. For example, a person is not in a mood to listen to you. You have a very good idea, but your senior is upset over something and his mind is shut off and he doesn't want to talk about it. There's a barrier. An emotional or psychological barrier occurs. So talking about encoder, let's take the example of encoder. What kind of barriers he is going to face? The encoder will face barriers like he thinks in a different manner, but when he speaks he uses an inappropriate word. That causes a barrier. Like for example, he wants to say that the product's color should be changed. Now the person receiving this message would say, what kind of color? Like, which color do you want? Now the encoder should have said that the product's color may be changed from pink to white. Now he is giving an idea. See the difference between the communication. The color of the product should be changed, or the color of the product should be changed from pink to white. So this is how a proper communication will take place. Encoder will have the barrier if he says the color of the product should be changed. Okay, fine. Why? What kind of color do you suggest? You see, all these questions will arise and they will produce a barrier. So encoder has to be very clear about himself, what he is talking about, and what are the questions arising in the decoder's mind as well. So these are all very important aspects. Then barrier in a medium. Now the barrier in the medium would be like my voice is not reaching you clearly, or I am not a clear speaker. You do not understand my words. I mumble things, and that produces a barrier. Like for example, you must have heard Chinese whispers. So what are those Chinese whispers? A person talks into the ear of another person, that person talks into another person's ear, third, fourth, fifth, and at the end the sentence which was spoken first is completely changed into when it comes to the last person. When he speaks out an entirely different sentence. So that is what a barrier is. Things are not clear. Then in written documents, probably overwriting, the fax is not clear, or even the medium of email that you're using. I will give you an example that one day I received an email saying, let's have a meeting. Now that is the only sentence which was written. I had written a detailed email that these are the problems and I would like to discuss them with you. And the reply came, let's have a meeting. Now, when are we going to have this meeting? Where are we going to have this meeting? What are we going to discuss? All these things will need to be catered for. So you see why people talk, and what kind of a response they want from the other person has to be absolutely clear in business communication. The message should have been, okay, let's have a meeting on this date, at this time, at this place, so that we can discuss these problems, right? Things would have been very, very clear. Now, I was absolutely lost. What kind of an email is this which says, let's have a meeting, full stop? So, the barrier in communication arises. Then we come to the different aspect of a decoder. The decoder may or may not be in the mood to receive a certain message. Like, for example, I am a morning person. You can call me in the morning and get maximum work done by me by the afternoon. In the afternoon, I am tired and I am not in the mood to do any serious work or any serious recordings. So what will happen in the afternoon? If you say that please come for your lecture, I might say that, look, this is not the appropriate time for me. So that is again a barrier, because, and if I have to come, like you force me to have a lecture at the time which is inappropriate for me, the lecture would not be that effective. It would not have that much sustenance, stability, and I will not put in my maximum effort in it. So that is something very, very different. So you would want that, okay, I would have a lecture with this ma'am in the morning, and she will be fine with it, she will be happy, and she will work well. So decoder do have their own barriers. They have their psychological barrier also, emotional barriers. You have certain things in your minds that you would want to think about, and you may not pay attention to the other person speaking at that moment. So that will come as a barrier. Then barrier in feedbacks. Well, barriers in feedback would be that you have not been able to reach to a certain place at a certain time because the communication barrier was there. Now, if I ask you, okay, that let's meet tomorrow. Now, tomorrow is actually a vague term, it never comes. The next day would be that particular day. It will not be tomorrow, it will be today. So if I say that, okay, let's meet on the 26th of July, then that would make sense, and I will give an appropriate time, okay, at 10 o'clock in the morning in my office. You can come there and we will discuss things. So that, and when you come there at the appropriate time, that is the appropriate feedback that I have received. So there are barriers which need to be considered in a social circumstance, in a society where we are living with people, people having their own emotional setbacks, or like, for example, I'm happy, I have a promotion, I've got a promotion and I'm very happy right now, and I would like to share it with everybody, but I reach home and my next door neighbor has a problem, a serious problem. They've gone to hospital and they're they're facing a difficult time. No matter how happy I am, I will not share my happiness with them at that moment, because the circumstances are not such to share my joy with the people who are extremely upset at that moment. So all these things need to be considered, and we are social people, we live in a society, we have to take care of people around us, and that is how their needs can be catered for. And a good communicator is a person who knows the other person well. So business communication has a bit of a psychological twist to it. You need to know the psyche of the people. Like for example, you know your boss, and you know that he doesn't want to be disturbed early in the morning. So you don't go to him when he reaches office, because he's checking his email or doing his little bit of things, and then when he settles down by 11 o'clock, you go to him with your problem. That is what business communication tells us about: to choose the appropriate time that is suitable for the other person, and to communicate your own idea in a better manner. We come to workplace communication. Improving your communication skills will enable you to establish better working relationships. Of course, you will have a good relationship when you are communicating well with people. Poor workplace communication skills will have negative effect on your business relationships. Like if you are short-tempered, or you are a person who doesn't listen to the other people, you are too much into your own own self, and you keep on talking about what your achievements have been, and you do not consider other people. So that will create a poor workplace communication level. Your relationship will not be good with such a person, and it may result in decreased productivity. How? Well, you see, if you are not working well with an individual, how can you work on a project with this person? It's going to be very, very difficult to be able to relate, to be able to talk, to be able to convey your message to the other person who is not ready to listen to you. So you see, the productivity of that organization will go down. And on the other hand, if you have a person with whom you have the mental compatibility, then the productivity would increase. Of course, you will be working very happily on a certain project, and both of you or the team members would be giving their 100% to that environment. So all these things will be really very much effective in productivity of any organization. There are 7 keys which will help you unlock the door to successful communication, not only at workplace but also in all your relationships. Okay, these 7 keys will help you unlock the door to successful communication not only at workplace but also in all your relationships. You see, workplace is not the only place where we give our best. We give our best to our relationships at home as well, because we are living among people and we have different relationships to care for. We are sisters, we are mothers, we are colleagues, we are also working with people, and we have different roles to play at a certain time. And this is how we go about in our everyday routine. First of all, personal contact is important. People relate to one another better when they can meet in person and read each other's body language. Now, why we consider personal contact? Because you talk to a person and your body language is also correlated with what you are saying. So that has a complete impact on the other individual. Take an example of talking to somebody on the telephone. Now, you cannot see the person, you're just hearing the voice, and that is half the impact which goes on. And that is how people are unable to get the complete picture of what the person is feeling, how things are going about, all these things. So people relate to each other when they are face to face. So try to have a good communication level with people in person. Have a personal contact with them. You can feel the energy the connection creates. The connection of an individual creates a kind of an energy. You are energized by the other person's presence, by his or her body language, and by his or her eye contact, which is also something very, very important. If personal contact is not possible, the next best way to connect is by talking on the telephone. So the next best way is the telephone, but the first priority is on a personal contact. Why they said telephone? Because the voice has its own expressions. You're sad, you talk in a different manner. You're happy, you talk in a different manner. You're indifferent, you're not feeling anything for the other person, you talk in a different manner. So all these things get interconnected, get very much conveyed to the other person, and of course your presence makes an impact all the more appreciable by the other individual. Next, develop a network. How you're going to do that? No one achieves success alone. This we have been discussing, that yes, we do talk about people, and we do need to interact with everybody all the time. Make an effort to become friends with people in different departments within your company. Meet new people in your community and look for experiences or interests you have in common. So you develop a network with the people. Like for example, organizations make their cricket teams. They make their people with ideas. They come up together and they have their some people can sing well, so they organize a musical evening. Some people can do some charitable work with collaboration with other people in the organization, in the departments, and with each other. So you do develop a network of communication with people. You don't work alone. You don't go sit on your computer the whole day and you get up and go back home. You mingle, you go forward, you talk to people, you are happy with what they do, you find things of interest, things which are common in you. People like for example ladies, they would like to talk about dresses and prints and makeups and all these things. Men would like to talk about games, cricket or tennis, or maybe even political scenarios they may be able to discuss. So people do find coordination with each other, and they talk to each other. They develop a certain interest, and when their interests start matching, they produce good things. Like for example, people can be working for NGOs also. They may be contributing to earthquake victims, or making a team and going out to help other people out, all these things. Like for example, Abdul Sattar Idi, he has developed a network with the whole country, in fact with the whole world. I would say that people from all over the world come and help out in his homes, and that is how things are running, and that is how we are able to find certain refuge, a bit of refuge for people who are destitute. So developing a network is not difficult. It is communicating with people, finding the mutual links of interest, and then developing those links throughout. Always be courteous in your communication with others. Courtesy lets people know that you care. The words "thank you" show that you appreciate a person's effort. Try saying "would you please" instead of just "please," or you will sound less dogmatic. Okay? So small words like "thank you," "would you like to have a seat," "how are you feeling today," what can I do to help you, okay, can you wait for a little while so that I can get things done for you. So all these small sentences make a lot of difference in your communication with other people. Try this in your working environment, and also try this at home also. Why? Because that is also a social situation we are talking about. So always try to be courteous, try to be polite, and if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything. Just a smile would do. But yes, considerate words, good words always produce good results. Like for example, one day I went to an office, and the person I wanted a query to be addressed. So the person on the desk was, continuously fumbling with papers. Maybe she was looking for something or whatever. And I just sat there and gave her a bit of time, and in a minute she realized that this person is waiting for me. She said, "Ma'am, could you please wait for 1 minute? I have a very urgent letter and I have misplaced it. I need to look for it." I said, "Okay, fine, relax, take your time, I'm here, and when you find this letter, then I can talk about my query." And you see, if I had made her nervous or tense, and I would have told her that I'm sitting here for such a long time and you're not paying attention to me, and what kind of a person are you, you're uncooperative, you see, things would have gone absolutely bad. So you see, we need to be together, and we need to care for the other person. And the result was that I waited patiently, I waited quietly, and the result was that the girl was able to find the letter quickly. Why? Because I was not making her tense. And she got it done, she was relaxed, she was happy, thank God I got it. And then she addressed me that, "Yes ma'am, what can I do for you, and thank you for your patience also." So you see, these small things matter in life, and always consider them when you are wherever you are. I will not say that only at your workplace, at your social gatherings, at your home. Be considerate to each other. Be consistent and clear in your workplace communication. Consistency builds trust. Asking, "Did I explain this clearly?" will assure that people understood what you said. So the next point in the 7 keys is that you have to be consistent and clear. Consistent, why? Because consistency will establish your credibility. Now your credibility at workplace is very, very important, because then only people will start relying on you. You will become a reliable person. I am here at 9 o'clock because I am asked to be here at 9 o'clock. If I come at 10, and the other day I come at 11 o'clock, what will be my reliability? What will be my consistency? My consistency will establish when I am here on time, when I finish my work on time, everybody is happy and relaxed about it. Now, if I am not clear in my job, in my work, and if I do not give my 100% to my organization, then I am doing a disservice to the organization, of course, but I am doing a greater harm to my own self, my own personality, and my reliability and my credibility both are going down the drain. How will I achieve that? If once I lose my credibility, believe me, it takes years to establish it again. But once you establish your credibility, your consistency, it doesn't go away. It is with you all the time. And consistency is something very, very important in all your dealings of life. The next point is compromise. Decreases the tension associated with conflict. Ask what is best for the company so that co-workers will not take the conflict personally. You need to compromise in certain situations, at work, at home, with friends. There is always compromise. You give and take. Okay, you will be late 10 minutes. Okay, I can deal with it. All right, this work needs to be done, completed by tomorrow. All right, I give you that much of time. So compromises are there. All right, I'm not, I'm unwell today. Could I be spared? Okay, fine. Take your time, get well, and come back to your work in good spirits. So compromises are there. Another person's point of view needs to be considered. You need to know that, yes, this person is, talking sense, and maybe I could be wrong. So thinking that it's not always you that is who's right. Somebody else may be right as well. So think of that person and consider his or her idea, compromise on the situation, give and take a little bit, and the conflicts will be resolved, and you will be a happy person at the end of the day. Next is, you cannot hold a person's interest if you have nothing interesting to say. You can learn to be an interesting communicator, like for example, read your hometown paper daily, read industry literature so you can know what is going on in your industry, rehearse telling a few short personal stories about your interesting experiences. So you talk to people about interesting things, you correlate with things, and a person you meet for the first time may have something interesting to tell you, and that is how you communicate, you talk, you develop a network, you have a courtesy with the other people, you are considerate, you compromise on situations, you have interesting things to say. Be a multi-dimensional individual. A person who can talk about cricket, a person who can talk about politics, a person who can talk about the generalized scenario, who has general knowledge about things, is always an interesting person to be with. So be a person who is able to talk on different topics at different levels and develop interest of the people around you. Another important aspect, and this aspect will be covered in detail later on, listening. Listen to what others are saying and show interest in the conversation, which is a difficult thing to do. Listening demonstrates respect and admiration. Now, if you're listening to me, you are demonstrating respect for me. If you turn your face, if you go away, get up, if you even yawn, I would say that yes, your interest is lost in listening to me. And of course, I would blame myself for a little while that, you see, I have not been able to do the work in a proper manner. So make your conversation like a game of tennis and keep the ball going back and forth. So listening, good listening is also a fine art, and you have to be very, very precise, very, very careful about the person, giving them the right expression of listening, and listening intentionally with all your mind open, with what ideas these people are conveying, and you're grasping them, you're attending to it. That will make you a good listener. And judgment of a good listening would be that you would definitely come up with appropriate questions. At the end of the conversation, you would say, look, I don't understand this thing, or you said this, but actually this thing is not possible in these scenarios. So it will show that you have listened in a good manner. Okay, so now we come to the summary of the first lecture, in which we discussed the definition of communication with 3 kinds of different definitions, and then we came on to the concept of encoder and decoder, how they, what are their roles in communication, and how they take the business forward. Then we discussed barriers in communication, because we are living in a social setup, and the barriers do occur and how we can overcome them. We also discussed 7 keys to good communication, which were courtesy, and developing a network, and having a good feedback with the people, so that our working relationship flourishes, how we can make things interesting, and how we can coordinate and cooperate with people. Sometimes we need to compromise. All these things we have discussed in the first lecture, and inshallah next lecture would be on feedback culture in organizations. And until then, Allah Hafiz, see you in lecture number 2.